Our partners, Solar Dynamics, the most efficient energy systems.
Good evening and welcome to the People's Business. I'm Wendy Burke. Today we'll be looking at the topic international business opportunities and benefits. And to discuss with me this evening, I have a panel of four. Mr. DERRICK Cummins, the president of the BIBA, and also CEO of Amicorp Bank and Trust Limited. JAMAR ARTHUR-SELMAN, who's a vice president of the association, and he's also the general manager of Centralis. There's Ms. CARMEL HAYNES, the executive director of BIBA, along with KAYE BRATHWAITE, the CEO of Invest Barbados. All people who are well placed to let us know what the opportunities are out there for Barbados in the global market. Now, first of all, we will take a break and be right back to discuss this afternoon. Welcome back to the People's Business, and it seems as though I want to reverse the hands of the clock, but it's actually nighttime. And first off, we'll get from our guests what they see as the opportunities and the benefits of being involved in international business. I'll start off with the ladies. Carmel.
Hi, good night, Wendy, and thank you once again for having us here this evening. Good night to all your viewers. Just to set the context that we are heading in towards our second annual Global Business Week, which starts from next weekend, October 24th, and it's running until October 30th. And this is really the time of year, the end of the last full week of every October, where we reach out to various communities in Barbados, and we really try to send the message that, you know, global business is everyone's business because of the impact that it has on so many people's jobs, on the quality of the life we have here, on the foreign investment that flows into the country with the foreign exchange that allows us to buy things, the stability that it lends to the economy. We are one of the major pillars of the economy, also contribute the largest amount of corporate tax each year to the Treasury of Barbados. So really and truly, global business is a very important pillar of the Barbados economy, and we just want to be able to share with your viewers that message.
Okay, and KAYE BRATHWAITE, CEO of Invest Barbados, what for you are the opportunities and the benefits of this particular sector?
Yes, thanks, and good evening, everyone. Well, let's Invest Barbados, you may be, is the government's agency which has the mandate to bring in foreign direct investment into the country. And the international business sector is very important to us fulfilling this mandate. Just last year, Barbados received a total of $524 million in foreign direct investment, although foreign direct investment across the globe is going down. So this just shows you how important this sector is to the continue growth of the economy of Barbados. We see this sector, as CARMEL would have mentioned, bringing great opportunities to Barbados, new skills, businesses, new direction, of course, employment, all of those things that go along, improve quality of life. So that is the importance of the sector to us as we also look to diversify the economy to make sure that we can withstand the shocks that come from just having, one particular sector in an economy.
Okay, if I can go now to JAMAR ARTHUR-SELMAN. Welcome to you, JAMAR. For you at Centralis, what does your company bring to Barbados, and what in return do Barbadians get from your company?
Well, thank you, Wendy. I want to say good evening to everyone as well. To answer your question very directly, it ties into everything that KAYE and CARMEL mentioned earlier. A company like Centralis, which is a corporate service provider here in Barbados, one among many, we service clients that operate in the space, subsidiaries of very large multinational entities, even some local entities in Barbados as well. And what Barbados gets from that is tied into everything. A service provider that does its job very well is able to facilitate the company being able to pay its taxes here in Barbados. We have employment that's generated. As case in point, we are currently a staff of 5, about to go to 7 by the end of this month. So that's 7 people with a job paying into the treasury as well. The tax that our clients pay into the treasury, sometimes it can go as high as several millions of dollars. So all of that contributes to the economy. And when things were in the golden times before COVID, we had directors and other visitors coming to the island to meet with us, to conduct business, which also inadvertently pays into tourism as well, because they come for meetings and they do other things. They stay at hotels, they use taxi services, they eat at restaurants. So it's on a true case point or case study example. You can see it from top to bottom. You can see the tax contribution in terms of just corporation tax. You can see staffing. You can see salaries being paid and contribution by income tax, and you can even see some flow over into tourism revenue as well. Okay,
on to you now, Derrick.
Yes. Hi, good night, Wendy, and good night to all the listeners and viewers. Yeah, international business, you must understand that Barbados does not exist in a vacuum, but we are in a global environment. And the reality is that there is not sufficient of everything for Barbados to survive on its own. So we've always tried to invite wealthy individuals, corporations, etc., to register in Barbados, to be in Barbados, to establish part of their business in Barbados. And what this does, as the others have said, is allow for many opportunities of employment, many opportunities of direct employment and direct engagement, but also the spin-offs of that. And way back when we started talking about international business, and the reality is, if you go all the way back to the 90s, you can see international business happening here. But then it came a point, international business spoke a lot about, as Kay said, foreign direct investment. Companies, particularly from Canada, registering here and then doing business in various jurisdictions through Barbados based on our double taxation treaty, etc. So that allowed many people to have very professional and skilled jobs in many industries. A major industry for us has always been captive insurance management. It has been private banking, investment management, as JAMAR said, corporate and trust service provider work and trustee services, and it goes on and on. And as he said, what do these entities like Hayes and Maya bring to the table? Amicorp Bank and Trust, we manage trusts, we manage corporations, again, multinational corporations, or just standalone corporations that came and saw what Barbados had to offer and we manage those companies. Some of those companies will have their own staffing, their own offices. And in this era of increased substance and the need to have more core income generating activities in Barbados or in the jurisdiction of registration, it gives real opportunities for lawyers, accountants, investment managers, etc., insurance professionals to work. And as we will discuss tonight, it goes beyond those industries, and there's so many other industries now that we view as in the realm of international business.
Okay. Now, the organization had changed the name of its week of activities from International Business Week to Global Business Week. And this year the theme is Adapt, Evolve, Execute, Lead the Change. Carmel, what's this change all about?
Thanks, Wendy. And that was really in keeping with our entire rebrand of BIBA as the Association for Global Business. And one of the signals that we wanted to send is that, and especially since the legislative changes about 2 years ago, where it removed the distinction between the tax regime between international and domestic companies, is that any company in Barbados that has global clientele, that is operating in multiple jurisdictions, that is selling their goods or services overseas, is in fact a global business company, right? Once you're earning that foreign exchange, primarily earning foreign exchange. And so we wanted to be really embracing so that people don't continue to think that this is only for international companies who are coming from outside and setting up in Barbados. This is for any entity, any company in Barbados that is looking to go global, that is global, and we want to embrace them. And so moreover, in terms of the theme, Adapt, Evolve, Lead the Change, COVID has hit all of us extremely hard, and it really moved us to be able to do those things. I mean, we had to pivot. We used to have this week of activities used to be entirely physical. You know, we used to have each day a physical activity, and now we've had to pivot to being entirely virtual. This is something that many entities have had to undergo to really see how they can reposition themselves in this virtual space. And we're thankful that we were able to do that, and we're still able to put on this entire week of activities. And, you know, through our strategic partners like Invest Barbados, like the Ministry of International Business, Ministry of Education, etc., and also through our many sponsors, that we've been able to adapt to this new dispensation and really lead the change in signaling that Barbados continues to be open for business despite the various lockdowns, curfews, just the way in which the nature of business has had to change. But we have continued to keep going.
But I think that it is fitting that you all are all virtual with your activities, because that's how your companies operate for the most part. Time zones, etc., don't matter. You're constantly on the net, on the phone, wherever the client is, you know, you have to reach them. Now, there's something here, Carmel, that I find quite interesting, and I want to know how that is going to work. This charity virtual 5K.
Oh, right.
How am I walking, and what am I walking with?
Okay, so just to be clear, you are doing the walk or the run, depending on which you choose. What we're saying to people is, obviously, we can't have a mass of people congregating in one space like we used to. You know, we used to have between 400 and 600 people each year, and we would set off usually in the vicinity of BIBA's office, and people would run and walk their 5K. So obviously, we cannot do that with the various physical distance restrictions. So what we're saying now is that you can choose to do the 5K from anywhere in the world. You can do it actually from, even if you have a treadmill or stationary bike at home, do your 5K. But what we're asking you to do is to, once you've registered, we'll provide you with access to our group on the Strava app. And we're asking people to actually log on Strava their 5K so that we can virtually participate with you, and see your route and see that you've completed it and see the photos that you've posted there and also on our social media pages. And so that is really how it's a virtual 5K. You're still doing it, but we're asking you to share as an online community your involvement in our 5K. And we're giving people the opportunity
to donate, because I realize that it's going to be an all-day event.
All day, actually all week. So from 12 a.m. on October 24th all the way down to 11:59 p.m. on October 30th, you can participate. So it really allows for flexibility, because what we found last year is when we tried to keep it to the Saturday, which is what we would have done in previous years, there was very bad weather, there was a lot of rain, and people weren't able to participate as they had liked. So now we're saying you have a choice. So, weather permitting, schedule permitting, you can choose at any point to do your 5K and just share it with us virtually through the social media, through the Strava app. And of course, there are prizes to be won as well for participating.
Okay, when we return after the commercial break, we'll speak with KAYE Brathwaite about Invest Barbados' role in Global Business Week, as well as some things that the government has been up to within that global space. The People's Business will return in a moment. And we're back with the People's Business. Tonight we're looking at international business opportunities and benefits, as well as examining what will be taking place during Global Business Week, which gets off and running from next Sunday. Now, if you've just tuned in, feel free to call us at 228-5562, 228-5563 if you have callers for any of our panelists or want to know anything about global business in Barbados. Now, as I said, Kay, tell me what will be Invest Barbados' role in Global Business Week this year, and about some of the things you've been up to, because you've been quite busy over the last 2 weeks.
Thank you, Wendy. Well, Invest Barbados is normally one of the diamond sponsors of Global Business Week, and we have been partnering with BIBA over a number of years with this week continuously, even through the change in terms of their launch of Global Business Week. We believe that it is important for us to have a presence and to show our support to BIBA, as this industry is the industry that we look to in order to fulfill our mandate and to bring foreign direct investment into the country. So it's very, very critical that we are there and lend BIBA all of our support. Now, Wendy, over the last couple of weeks, obviously, I've been very busy, is correct, and we're all the way into Dubai, and we've gone out there to the expo to actually look for foreign direct investment into Barbados. The opportunities in the UAE are massive, great opportunities, and we already had some persons consider us just from the expo. If you can imagine 105 countries and a massive expo and millions of people passing through the expo, business people looking at Barbados, understanding what Barbados has to offer and coming to say, listen, I want to hear more. I want to bring my business to Barbados. I want to operate from Barbados. And that is basically what we have really been up to over the past 2 weeks.
So it means then these opportunities are looking quite fetching for us.
Oh, definitely, quite fetching, and in a lot of diverse areas, areas like ICT, renewable, agro-processing, niche manufacturing. Those are the kind of areas that we've gotten some great interest in, and we are following up on those leads to make sure that we can bring that business to Barbados for all of the achievements and opportunities that Barbados have to offer.
I'm glad that you mentioned the additional areas, because people seem to think that the UAE is just about that fintech space and, you know, that type of business.
No, that is one part of it, and yes, that is very prominent down there. But you have a lot of other areas. We have a lot of persons, as I mentioned, into manufacturing, persons into R&D, which is another area we want to look into, persons into life sciences, pharmaceuticals. So it's a lot of business variety in the UAE and a lot of business opportunities in the UAE.
Derrick, I realize that you seem to be teaming there because, you know, new business is something you seem to be quite passionate about.
Well, absolutely. If you are not growing, I suspect you may be dying. So Barbados, the industry does have to grow. We do have to think about the things that make the world go around today, really. They can pretty much all happen from our shores. All the industries that Kate just mentioned, Barbados is established and set up to invite these companies and these innovators to come here, register here, live here, and even bring staff here. And to win their world from here. And reality, that is where BIBA really comes in. Because BIBA is that agency that I would say agitates with government to get the platform here working exactly and working rightly. So these businesses, once KAYE goes out there, once I go out there, once JAMAR go out there, and we make a promise that we are able to fulfill that promise because the platform that Barbados offers to do business works. Immigration has to work, the tax regime have to work, the corporate registry have to work, everything, town planning has to work, the transfer of ownership of land and buildings have to work. The judicial system have to work for settlement of cases that may come up from time to time in the natural course of doing business. And yes, I'm passionate about new business, but I'm also passionate about mastering the things that are within our control and making sure that we are ready for when these opportunities come up, that we can really take them and run with them. Education has to work. The skill set that our people have and need has to be built out. Not just accountants and investment managers and lawyers anymore, but the really technical innovators, the coders, etc. So
Okay.
we really have to make all these things work.
You spoke about the building out of education, and I don't know if maybe JAMAR wants to step in here in terms of the careers showcase. And say a company like Centralis dealing with our youth and so on at these various types of events, what are some of the main areas that you push or you try to encourage them in or show them that there's some scope for development in?
Well, thanks for that. What we are focused on, and I'm glad you raised it, because on the Tuesday, which is the October 26th, we combine what we call the secondary school symposium and the career showcase. And on the career showcase end, we really do an outreach to members and interested persons to contribute their time to sit and kind of speak with persons and young persons who are interested in specific career fields within global business and international business arena, to say, well, listen, this is what you may not be thinking of, and this is how you can get into it, and this is what is involved, and this is what it entails, and to really kind of spark that interest, because one of the things that has been mentioned here by my fellow panelists as well is that everything is kind of linked together. It's not just about people looking to start a business here and that's the end of it. The businesses now and have to have a certain level of substance so that they can operate and be deemed compliant on a global scale. And one of those aspects of substance is hiring qualified individuals. And you want to make sure that your inputs and your outputs are matched. So if you are looking to set up a certain business here, the question you're going to ask is, well, the staff that I need to hire, is it there in Barbados? And one of the ways in which Global Business Week contributes to that is to kind of spark the interest of young individuals to see what is there, what are you not thinking of. So I'll give you one example. You may be, say you're pursuing a career to be an attorney at law or an accountant. These the usual ones that you see. You may think to yourself, well, maybe I have to go to a law firm, or maybe I have to go to a government department to find work. And it may not be on your radar that there's a ton of interesting and nuanced jobs within companies that set up here, or service providers, or the very same accounting and law firms themselves that are servicing global businesses, and you get a different type of exposure, a different level of experience. Breaking away from the traditional sectors as well, we try to also reach out to specific businesses who need something a bit more nuanced. I mean, there's all types of businesses that set up here and are running global businesses on a very large scale and also on a small. You need persons in different fields, and the only way in which you continue to draw expertise and make sure that persons who are interested in these fields don't think that the only place they can find work is outside of the shores of Barbados, is to introduce them to say, well, here's an interesting avenue. Maybe there's something in agriculture that actually ties to global business that you may not have thought about. Maybe there's something in technology, and I think Derrick mentioned coding earlier. There were some certain very specialized entities dealing with programming, blockchain technology, etc. here that are looking for young individuals. And in a lot of cases, the majority tends to come from persons having to bring expertise overseas, but you start to see that gap lessen the more that Barbadians are trained, skilled, and are able to get into the businesses here locally, satisfy that need, and continue to gain expertise, and then continue to multiply within these arenas, truly contributing to us being a global business hub, which is what Barbados is and what Barbados needs to be.
Okay, remember our numbers, 228-5562, 228-5563. Carmel, I can look now at the whole community involvement of Global Business Week, not only your community outreach, but also your public discussion. Tell me, what are some of the elements of those two? Unmute. Okay, we seem to be having a little issue. Yeah. Derrick, could you jump in here for us?
Yes, a public discussion forum sponsored by Brookfield. That is our every year session where we invite the public. It's normally, again, used to be at the Grand Salle, but it's virtual this year, and the topic is online. It's Barbados ready for this new online environment. And we speak a lot about our infrastructure, our telecommunications network, and the ability that we can get things done. We look also at what government has been doing for the past few years as far as the Easy Pay system, as far as the other agencies getting their systems up and going. But it has to go beyond that. Are we there yet? And the reality is, when we speak of going online, right away thinking about maybe digital transformation. And we need to understand that there are three pillars to digital transformation. It's the technology change, it's the change of processes, but it's also a change of culture. Okay, if you have the technology change, but your processes and your forms have changed, you have a problem. If you change the technology, you change the procedures, but then you don't change the culture, you still have a very big problem. Something as simple as look at the banks. The banks have been trying to get folk out of the banks to the ATM, to online, to their mobile phones. But obviously, there's still a sector, and not just the older folk, but there are still persons who want to physically walk into a bank, even though they don't have to anymore. There's people who want to go and see that their money almost is still in the bank, for example. So change your systems, change your processes. What about your people? What about the culture of the people? What about having people know that they can indeed work smarter? And this also goes into then the next generation. Are we equipping them? Are we preparing them for a digital age to work online seamlessly? We had the contingent from here in the past 2 weeks, and we are amazed the last time they were here, and again what they've been able to do to take banking to the unbanked by just being on the phone, by being online. So is Barbados ready? We can build the technology, we can change the processes, but we have to change the culture and the hearts and the minds of people into a new and more efficient way of doing business. And again, it's for internally Barbados, but obviously we look to see all that we can do from our shores into a whole and global environment.
Okay, I want to thank you very much for that, Derrick. When we come back after this break, you can call us still, 228-5562, 228-5563. But we'll go back to CARMEL and look at some other elements that we want to explore with respect to the conference. We'll be right back. We're back with the People's Business. We're discussing international business opportunities and benefits. Before we went off, CARMEL HAYNES, the CEO of BIBA. Now, I realized that outside of the community efforts Derrick had spoken about, you spoke to COVID and how it's been impacting a lot of people. And one of the things that you're looking to do within the community in relation to your shirt service is that of a food drive. Tell us some more about it.
So each year, as we go and join different congregations to signal the start of the commencement of Global Business Week, we usually try to make a contribution to the respective churches, either breakfast program or food drive, etc. So this year will be no different. And so what we do is we raise funds and we get donations from among our member companies, and we make a donation to the particular church in question. So this year we will be joining virtually again Siloam Ministries International, and we will make a donation to their Kingdom Restoration Project food drive. So that in that way, we are making a contribution to that community in and around the Princess Margaret Secondary School in St. Philip, because that is where the church is located, and they give directly to their community in St. Philip. So we will be doing that once again. Wendy, I just also wanted to go back to the free public discussion forum that we're having, Barbados Online, Are We Ready?, which Derrick spoke about. And I just really wanted to reiterate, as I said, BIBA does all of this in conjunction with our strategic partners. And we're very pleased that we have managed to get the heads of the major business facilitation agencies to join us on that evening. And that will be on the Monday evening, and where we will have with us the Revenue Commissioner, so the head of the Barbados Revenue Authority, Ms. Louisa Lewis-Ford. We will have the CEO of the Financial Services Commission, Mr. Kester Guy. We'll have the Acting Director of International Business, Mr. Robert Folks, and we will have the Deputy Chief Immigration Officer, Ms. Margaret Innes. And so each of these representatives will speak about their particular agency, which are, as you can tell, very important, not just to the global business sector, but also to the business community on a whole, and also in some cases to the individual Barbadian. So we will hear how they're preparing to really be fully online and to facilitate business. And obviously, given again the pandemic and any natural disasters, being able to continue when you cannot actually physically go out to an office, being able to still process business is very important. So we're very excited to have these leaders on with us and to be able to discuss what each of their agencies are doing to really drive forward Barbados as an online digital space.
Okay, and on that note, because it was an area I was going to come back to, and I want to find out from you, Kay, in terms of being online and us being ready, have any of the clients, or how big a percentile does it play out for those who come to the agency with an interest in setting up and doing business here?
Our quality of our infrastructure in terms of being digital and being able to facilitate business online is very critical and very important. When we saw the rise of the pandemic, it was very, very important that we were able to adapt very quickly, hence using words from the Global Business Week, and pivot and be able to conduct our business online and provide our clients with that solid infrastructure, telecommunication infrastructure, which Barbados does have, and that they can continue their business. It was very important, very critical. And a lot of our existing clients were very pleased with the ability for us to adapt in that area. And now that the pandemic has continued and everything has basically gone virtual, what we're finding is that we're able to conduct business in a lot of places and new areas and new countries from just sitting right here in Barbados, to begin the process of them coming to understand in Barbados, sharing information, carry them through the ropes of setting up their companies, so that when they eventually visit Barbados, all of that groundwork is already done, and all of that is actually done virtually. So to answer your question, Wendy, it plays a very important. We must continue to be ready, and we must continue to look at the systems we have now, even tweak them to be a lot more effective, to make it even easier for the outside person to conduct business in Barbados over a virtual world.
Our call number is 228-5562, 228-5563. If you have any questions for any of our panelists this evening, or interested in getting into global business in Barbados. Now, we spoke about a forum, we spoke about your outreach to charity and the community. Let's look now at the business of things, which will be your conference, Derrick and Jamar, and actually having all of your players and all of your stakeholders involved in the process. And the conference takes place over, I believe it is 3 days?
Yes, right.
Yes,
That is correct.
right. Okay, so let's start off with you, Jamar.
Sure. So yes, the conference, we actually came up with an interesting format for the conference in our first year when we rebranded to Global Business Week. And it was to take it from a traditional 2-day in-person conference where we would go to the usual sites, but the Hilton or Lloyd's First Center, wherever we were before. And we went completely virtual. And because we were trying to adapt, to use the key again, to that virtual environment, we realized that the way people interact in a virtual environment and the way in which people attend conferences and the type of the type of fatigue sometimes that people get when they're at their desks, when they're doing things, and sometimes distractions into things. When you're at a conference and you're sitting, you're very much there. When you're at a desk and you're attending something virtually, there's everything is happening around you. So we decided what's the most value we could give to persons attending a virtual conference, and also how could we make it interesting. So what we came up with was to extend the conference to 3 days, and we did in 2 days being a traditional conference where we will have very engaging speakers, panel discussions, presentations from people all over the region, all over the globe, and from Barbados. And then on the third day, which is the Friday, so it's a Thursday, Friday, on the third day we decided to do something a bit more geared towards capturing the attention and participation of persons who are attending virtually. So a day for workshops in essence. So the other thing I want to highlight about the conference is it's also meant to give people some time back in their day as well. So what we did is we start the conference early, and then we finish just around 3 o'clock, and we have pre-recorded sessions which you can then go back to at your leisure and view whenever you have convenience, so that you're not locked into works for the entire day. You get that fatigue and you're distracted. Instead, you get really engaging sessions virtually. You get the opportunity to kind of go a la carte and on demand and find your previous sessions. And then on day 3, we have even further value added with in training, almost training style workshops and in-depth discussion workshops that last for much longer. There, I think each session is about 2 hours. And of course, the conference is as I always have. It covers a wide range of topics, all dating back to, I think we started about 13 years ago, and it's always been kind of the on the calendar for the year for the global business community. And in essence, the key things we are highlighting this year is the theme of the conference is it's all about a new era of global business 2021 and beyond. So what we're looking at is, with everything that's been happening with the global business sector in the last 2 years, really feel as though we are in a new era, or basically operating in a post-paradigm shift environment across the board, where it's dealing with the challenges that always come with respect to tax rates, it's dealing with the changes that were brought about by COVID, whatever happens, we always tend to adapt the conference to the issues that are happening and affecting the sector as it's actually happening within that month of October, whatever is up to date. We include topics related to having regulatory updates from regulators to say, well, what are happening now on the ground and what's to come. We touch and concern on the major topics of the. So we have things such as discussions on the global minimum tax rate. We topics covering other aspects of life as well. So we're talking about alternative work arrangements are also being talked about during the conference. To blend with the theme that you would see early in the week with respect to Barbados Online and dealing with technology and digitization. We are also talking about new tech, what it takes to become a successful Asian hub. There's a wide range of topics. I don't want to call them all because I know Darren to speak next, but generally speaking, very dynamic format over 3 days, really value added, and it's really a must attend.
Over to you, Derrick. Let's hear some more about this value that will be coming over those couple days.
You were doing a great job, JAMAR, really. But I want to, before I talk another story, I want to talk a bit about the fact that for many years going into this, we used to be also excited about many speakers coming from abroad to impart the wisdom. But one thing that's been really special over the years is that the continuous increase in local quality speakers. So as we go through, you'll see a high percentage of local practitioners and professionals expound on topics that they're so good at. But along with that, a nice thing has happened with this environment of virtual is that we get to cover the globe for speakers from anywhere and invite them to speak virtually at a cost-effective manner, in that you're not paying for hotel, you're not paying your fare, etc. So it has really allowed us to get an amazing blend of local but international speakers. One thing we're speaking on is the free trade zones. We have two speakers from Panama, actually, Danny Quiros, who's with Newmark, and Alice Mioli, who's also with Newmark. And they're experienced dealing with the free trade zone in Colón, in Panama, which is the biggest free trade zone in our sphere. And what that basically is, a free trade zone is a custom-free, or a carved-out area of a country with a counted customs regime. So, for example, if you're a manufacturer operating in a free trade zone, you can get to import your raw materials free of duties and other taxes, and then you convert those raw materials into a product, and you have to export them to another country as a finished product, and that all happens in that free trade zone. Then you get some benefits, some legislative and customs benefits in doing so. So it allows you to operate in a competitive manner. So that's something that's going to be very interesting. Is there's opportunity for that in Barbados?
Okay.
Other area.
We have to take a quick break, and we'll come back, Derrick. When we come back to deal with the other areas, I also want to look at with you the whole issue of the alternative work arrangements, because now we're working in this digital space. We'll have to look at a few things, and I believe we have a caller on the line as well. 228-5562, 228-5563. The People's Business will return in a moment. And we're back. Before we left off, we were discussing with Mr. Derrick Cummins, the president of BIBA, some of the elements that are going to be coming out of the conference. We were on the issue of the free trade zones, Derrick, but then we were moving on from there. If we could look at the alternatives maybe for work arrangements, as well as the Data Protection Act, because now that we are in this new environment and so much is being done online and there's so much more people online, the risk of leaks and server hacks and all those things have to be taken into account.
Correct. Indeed. So I always tell the story at my previous bank. Just before COVID, and a year and months before COVID, we were discussing alternative work arrangements and the opportunities for flexi time. And the more we talked about it, it got into flexi time. It's not only remote work, but it's flexi time. It's a compressed work day. It's even job sharing. And there are many aspects to it. But the more we got into it, we seem to be going down a rabbit hole of employee right troubles, data protection, safety of the company and the client's information, etc. So a year on, we just started moving further and further away from it. But suddenly, COVID happened, and what seemed impossible happened almost immediately. we started working from home and we realized it could be done. So yeah, it's not only the remote work, but there are many other aspects. And on the first day, we have a panel to speak on this. We have Julie Turton, founder and CEO of HR at Heart Consultant, Shane Howell, a human resource strategist from Antilles Economics, and ARTHUR-SELMAN, our vice president, will also be talking about this. And the reality is, what we've come to see more and more, despite what you may want to do, even as it may seem to benefit employees, you have to be careful that you're not infringing on rights. You have to be careful that the employees are given the time, the consideration, even as you seek to grow the business and to grow opportunities for them. And this also segues into data protection, because as you said, when the employee now has access to the company's data, the clients remotely, how are your firewalls? How is your security? Have you done your penetration testing and all that? So many things come into play. Is your staffer allowed to log in at home only, or can he go to a cafe also, which is less secure, and log in? So all of these things come up. Data protection, as you know, has become a big deal. We have also on day one Bartlett Morgan, who's a commercial litigator with Chancery Advocates, and Justin Boyce, attorney at law at Clark, Gittins and Farmer. To talk about data protection, Barbados has gotten their law on data protection passed, and I know many corporates had to have policies on this. For Amicorp, which is a global company, well before Barbados was ready, we had to be on board because the UK had it and other territories had it. So even though we were operating from Barbados, we had to be treating our clients' information to the standard of the group. So we'll hear about the fact that once you have companies or clients' data, it is not really yours to use and to even share with another segment of your business without their protection, without their consent. You get to know that the client can ask you to erase, delete, and return any data that you've given to them in the past. They have a right to know exactly how you are in their data. And this is a very big topic. Obviously, you hear all about the large social media giants of Facebook and others. How do they use the data? And data is a commodity, a very, very valuable commodity. But clients and users have rights, and the government have made legislation to protect those rights. And companies are in jeopardy, places themselves in jeopardy if they do not hold fast and uphold the rights of their employees. So those are two topics that we will be looking at during the week.
Okay, if I could ask Kate in here now, you'll be opening one of the sessions as well on day 2 of the conference. But before we get to what role Invest Barbados is going to be playing, I want to speak to you about the whole issue of the said data, because I guess your staff might be working remotely as well. And how do you ensure, because they're dealing with not a given client DERRICK has, but they're dealing with multinational corporations, they're dealing with people all around the world, and this is revenue coming directly to the government. So how are you shoring up that, you know, you're not losing in terms of how your staff operates?
Yes, Wendy, we had to make sure that our IT system and our security surrounding the IT system second to none, because we do know that we're dealing with a lot of international companies, a lot of confidential business information, and therefore that has to be protected. So there's certain security issues that we would have gone through. Basically, you know, you have certain rights. You can log in from certain places. You can access certain information. So not everyone, although they're working from home, even when they were working from the office, not everyone has access to everything that is on the Invest Barbados server. Only if it is important to your job and for you to complete your work is where you have access to that information. We make sure sure that we set rules and policies in place, like everything must be saved on the server, nothing on your personal desktop or computers and so on. Those might seem minor, but those actually assist you in making sure that you protect the client's information. So we really had to go through all of that, and COVID actually made us step up our game in terms of our security platforms to make sure that although we have persons working from home, and that we can make sure that we have protection for our clients' information.
But then too, there's also the issue of protection of the staff's information, because there are some systems that are set up in such a way that once you are on that server, the company has access to your information as well. That might be passing through you if you WhatsApp web, those kinds of things, whilst on the computer doing office work. You know, lots of other things can still be checked. So what about protection of the employee whilst they are working from home?
That's a good question. But really, really,
you didn't look at it, did you?
Not.
Yes.
You should be doing your personal information from your work devices.
But that's provided. It's provided by work. There are instances where,
we at Invest Barbados actually provide all of our equipment for our staff. So our staff work from equipment provided by Barbados, and therefore we do not necessarily have not encountered that issue. But I thank you very much for raising it, because I will keep it in the back of my mind now and go back to my IT personnel and say, well, have we considered this, and does this really happen?
Yeah, okay. Just one of those things. It's coming up in another realm, so I found it very interesting, where we're being asked to use a particular app, but whilst we use that app, we have to turn off all of the security protection on our own laptops. So any amount of things can happen in that space, just about anything.
We won't be using any apps like that.
Goody. All right, well, let's get back now to Global Business Week and you, CARMEL, in terms of all that is going on. Mental health will also be factoring in. This was a subject that for many a person was taboo just about, say, maybe 3-4 months ago. But now we're all speaking to it, because it seems as though we're working harder from home than we were at the office.
Yes, that's very true, Wendy. And actually, to tie back to the BIBA charity, I just wanted to point out that along with the public health care system of Barbados being the focus of its donations, since last year they've also had a particular focus on mental health as well. And so we're very pleased to have speaking at the conference this year in one of our pre-recorded sessions, Dr. Joanne Spence, and she's a behavior change consultant with the Therapeutic Assessment Center in Trinidad and Tobago, and she's going to be speaking about mental health in the workplace. How do you protect your mental health at work? And as you rightly said, mental health has been a taboo subject leading up to this point. But one of the things that Dr. Spence has said, in another presentation that I heard her speak about, is, she tries to use language that is not as, I guess, contains that stigma. And so she will talk about stress, and everybody talks about stress, right? But people don't really think about the fact that when you are stressed, this is actually affecting your mental health. And so what she discusses is really providing people with coping strategies, because, through the lockdowns, especially with people who live alone, that sense of isolation for long periods of time can be very detrimental in some cases, particularly if you're dealing with certain mental health issues. There's also the remote working. If you're somebody who thrives off of interaction in the office or other spaces, then when you have to work remotely entirely from home by yourself, that can also cause certain stresses. So those are the sort of issues that we are going to be looking at, or Dr. Spence will be looking at when she addresses the conference this year.
Okay, and outside of that particular pre-recording, you'll also be looking at insurance. And I had posed to a number of insurance companies how they were factoring in the whole COVID pandemic and if it was actually going to become one of the questions when you're signing up for either new health insurance or a new personal life insurance policy. And up to this point, they've still not made a decision on it. You know,
so our insurance session at the conference is actually going to be looking at the topic of the next generation, and this goes back to actually more so looking at youth and you know, coming into the workforce, etc. But what you've brought out is also an important consideration in terms of pandemic protection. Now, a lot of insurance companies have been looking to carve out pandemic as an area that they cover, and this has in terms of, you would have heard Kay mention captive insurance, and that this is a growth area for Barbados. And one of the reasons we're seeing such a growth in captive insurance is that companies who are having to, large companies who are having to protect themselves and self-insure, they are looking at, because their traditional commercial insurers are not providing for, you know, the impact of COVID on their workforce. They're not in terms of providing for claims, impact of COVID on their workforce or business continuity as a result of disruptions for COVID. Those are things that they're not being able to claim for with a traditional commercial insurer. So what they're doing is that they're protecting themselves and setting up captive insurance companies, which is where they're insuring their own risk.
Insurance company?
Right. So that's what I was saying.
Break that down for us a bit more.
Basically, it's where a large, say it could be a hospital, it could be a university, it could be any sort of large company or entity where they have looked at the sort of premiums they would get charged on a commercial basis, or they've looked at the sort of risk that they want to cover and decided that they're going to set up a separate entity. So think of it as a personal insurance company that personal insurance company that another company will set up for themselves. So say the University of the West Indies wanted to have its own personal insurance company, that would be a captive, to put it at its most basic, right? A captive insurer. And so what I'm saying is that those type of companies are using Barbados and other jurisdictions that have favorable legislation and favorable business environment for setting up these captives to come here. So we actually saw last year, I think it was that we saw growth, I think it was about 12 or 16%, something like that, in the number of captive insurance companies that registered here in Barbados.
Okay, so we're growing and we're going. And we are going to commercial break. When I come back, I will speak with KAYE Brathwaite about the legislative framework, which makes it so much easier to do global business in Barbados. And we're back. I'll go now to Ms. Kay Brathwaite, who's the CEO of Invest Barbados. Okay, Kay, we hear a lot about having the necessary framework in place for business to be done properly. We talk about anti-money laundering issues. We talk about our Financial Action Task Force. Tell us about some of the other major policies and players that are about to ensure that the necessary groundwork is laid and that the framework that we set up is conducive to doing business here.
Thank you, Wendy. Well, let's start about a couple of years ago, maybe 2 years ago. What the government decided to do was to converge basically the tax rates for both all business, whether local business, whether global business, and to really eliminate what we used to call IBCs, which is international business corporations, and that hence came up the topic of global business. So now we all operate on one framework, whether you're local or whether you are international. The tax rate ranges from 1 to 5, depending on your assets, depending on your revenue. But what it is this gave everybody an equal platform to operate on. Not necessarily any advantage to any company, and put us in a bracket where we are a very attractive jurisdiction for any company to operate in that area. So that's one of the major things that happened over the last 2 years in terms of setting the framework to attract more business. As we always said, we are a lower tax jurisdiction and not a tax haven. So that is what we did.
Okay,
to put it very simply.
We're not a tax haven, but we still find ourselves sometimes on this list or that list. How does that manage to happen?
Well, the producers of the list really have a variety of criteria. They look at various things and they decide if which country should be on the list at any given point in time. Sometimes what happens, they may say, well, you haven't met this criteria, or you haven't met 3 or 4 of this out of 20 pieces of criteria that you have to meet, and to place you on whether it's the grey list or whether it's the black list. However, what I can say to you is that only when Barbados is placed on these lists, the International Business Unit work along with the OECD, with FATF, in order to see what are the criteria that has us on this list, what it is that we can do in order to get off of these lists, and what proof that we can show to say, well, listen, we have met this criteria, or we've met criteria A, B, or C. So that is an ongoing process that happens.
Okay. So Barbados, would you say, Derrick, is in the clear now?
Wendy, motivated reasoning. Motivated reasoning is starting at the end point and doing everything you can, reason everything to get to that end point. The reality is, these world agencies, these first worlds, have reasoned and decided that the end point, in my mind, is to decimate the international financial sector in many of these small international financial sectors. And they have been trying from 2000s. And reality is, if they've tried before to find a reason to curtail our activity in this arena, and it didn't work this time, what else are they going to come? What else are they going to reason to get to that endpoint? So reality is, here we are again. But as Kay said, we've done a lot of work. The Ministry of International Business, the Minister of International Business, and the BIBA Task Force, and the professionals within BIBA has done a whole lot of work to adapt to all the moving goalposts to get us where we are today. The reality is, we have always agitated what is right and what is wrong on the global space, but while doing so, we have made sure that we have a seat at the table. We are part of the inclusive framework that sits around and decides how these things are all shaped. We right now have blacklists. We have the minimum tax rate, but they are not being worked out. And Barbados is at the table trying to carve out the best way that all these things work for us. So we aren't laying down and playing there is no point to only speaking and blasting the first world publicly for all the rounds that they're doing, but we're also at the table trying to get the best scenario for Barbados. The reality is, Kay discussed earlier the Dubai Expo, but she didn't say it's a beautiful theme of Barbados, from sugarcane to blockchain. That's where we are, Barbados. But it seems that some would like us to still be in the sugarcane alone, struggling, not being able to self-determine and to bring our people to the standard that we want to be. So we are fighting. We will continue to fight. That is why our platform has to be working. That's why we have to master the things that we can control. You mentioned the legislation, the immigration legislation, the company legislation, the tax legislation, the trust foundation, corporate legislation, all those things that we need for Barbados to work. We need to master those.
Okay. Now, Kay mentioned that we are not a haven. And I want to look at something, Derrick, that has shot up recently, and we can't ignore it. And I remember you and I were having some prelim discussions about it. And that's the issue of these Pandora Papers, you know. Has your organization looked at them? And do we have any reason to be concerned here?
Yes, we have looked at it. And I myself, we've looked at it from the perspective of Amicorp, and we've looked at it from the perspective of Barbados. And all of our searches to date has found nothing for Amicorp, thankfully, and has found only one minor mention of Barbados. The reality is, a few years ago we had the Panama Papers, now we have the Pandora Papers. It's really sensational. It sounds sensational. It rings well in the ears of those same groups who want to bring an end to our international financial center business. Okay, but the reality is, everything that is sensational, one, isn't illegal, it isn't unethical, it isn't necessarily immoral. Yeah, we heard the Pandora Papers break. In every report, I still kept hearing the 4, 5, or 7 names, the 4, 5, or 7 companies, and no more. If it's so sensational and so great, where are all the stories? The reality is, Barbados has a framework for managing for anti-money laundering processes and counter-terrorist financing processes. And Amicorp, Centralis, and all the other registered and licensed corporate service providers are beholden to follow those. And if they don't, the regulators, the central bank, the Ministry of International Business, the Financial Services Commission will have a say. A lot of what we heard also spoke about politicians. And obviously, I hate it to hear or to think that politicians take money from the needy people and enrich themselves. Certainly, once we have an opportunity to onboard a pet, that is a politically exposed person, then there is a level of enhanced due diligence that goes into understanding the source of wealth and understanding the source of funds. And you can't just write what it is, but you have to evidence it. And we go deeper into that. So under our legislation, and this is a beautiful thing that has happened the last years when there's been more scrutiny, because what Barbados has done has brought a level of transparency to our practices and brought a level of robustness to our practices that we can be very confident that we do our best only to onboard good business and only to onboard business from people who understand that they are duty bound to pay their fair share of taxes. So yes, the Pandora Papers, it speaks to those same people that wants to decrease our playing in this area, to those who call us the pirates of the Caribbean, for those who say, like Oxfam has said in the past, that these financial centers cause poverty in Africa, etc. So it sounds good, and unfortunately what it will do, it will bring more political pressure and other pressures to the UN, to the OECD, to others to make changes. But you look again and you see that a lot of these issues were in the UK, South Dakota, USA, and other places, in the region also. But we're not the ones causing the problems, Wendy. That's the reality.
Understood. Understood. And I'm happy that we're not, and we don't want to cause any problems. But one of the issues that keeps jumping up over and over and over is that of employment and employment rights in this pandemic period. And I realize, JAMAR, that you seem to be somewhat of an HR guru, or that you have a fervent interest in these things. And I want to find out from you, you know, what for you is the new normal? Is there anything normal about what we're going through now?
Well, first, let me just correct something. I definitely am not an HR guru. I happen to have dealt with a lot of HR matters, managing 2 companies in the last 11 years of my career. But I'm only moderating a conference with the true HR, moderating a topic at the conference with the true HR gurus. However, what I can say is one of the key things that we look at, it comes out, what is the new normal tends to come out based on the linkages that we're making at the conference. So, for example, we talked about earlier about alternative work arrangements. We also talked about mental health in the workplace as a topic, and then we then have a workshop on, you know, employment issues facing the new normal. So, what you're hearing traditionally, it has been, well, the new normal seems to be a configuration of the issues that are being faced, how people work, the challenges that people are facing in working in an environment where there may be a hybrid situation where you're working a lot more from where you live, where home becomes work, or you're alternating into different strategies of where you work, and not just where you work, but also how you work, and lastly, when you work. So the new normal to me is a mixture of this way in which the way in which we are servicing clients in regards of whatever business you're in this new era of global business. And in marrying those 3 things, you tend to figure out that this is what the new normal is. And at the conference, the interesting thing what we've told speakers and panelists as well is we also want to cover both sides of the story, because a lot of the time persons are either looking at the employer or they're looking at the employee. And we are trying to cover both. So as much as the employees will have issues and challenges facing this arrangement, we also know that the conference is attended by persons who employ people, and they themselves are asking the questions, you know, these are the issues that I'm facing as an employer. You know, how do I, sometimes you get, you know, persons saying, you know, well, I'm so accustomed and we've been so enshrined for the last several decades, if not more, of people going to a space. How do I get comfortable with monitoring, you know, what my employees are doing, or not monitoring it, or getting comfortable with the fact that I maybe don't have to monitor in the way I thought I had to monitor? How do I get comfortable with persons working at different hours of the day? How do I get comfortable with people sharing work? When you work in global business, you tend to have come across a lot of alternative work arrangements, and a lot of things that, even though we're calling it the new normal, some aspects of it have actually been normal before in different hemispheres. So, for example, when you work with a lot of the Asian countries, you tend to realize there's always someone at the other end of the phone, or there's always someone writing emails at close to midnight. And it's not always a time difference. Sometimes it's literally that certain firms had already put in place a different type of shift work system, where you have actually someone who's working on a matter during the day, and there's a whole other person working on the same matter to cover the evening shift. So when you get into that, and then you kind of roll forward into so-called employment issues facing the new normal, these are all aspects of things that we have to work through, and we've been working through, and that employment professionals have been thinking through what's the way in which we can find this balance between the employer's needs and the employee's needs. And when you reach that balance, that to me, with everything else, becomes the new normal.
Okay. When we come back on The People's Business, we'll look at more issues involved in the global business sector. And we're back with the People's Business. Before we left off, we would have been speaking to Mr. JAMAR ARTHUR-SELMAN. Business. We're looking at the opportunities and benefits within the international global business sector. And one of the things that we've been talking a lot recently is that of blockchain technology. What is it exactly? How is it going to help us? Why is it now the dominant feature? And I'm going to ask each of our panelists to weigh in on this one by one. CARMEL.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. Well, obviously, given where we are going, Barbados has to look at other opportunities to be able to capitalize on trends that are taking place overseas. And we are very pleased that we've got a homegrown company in the form of BIT, which is actually one of the real drivers of us embracing the use of blockchain technology in the region. And so we are very pleased that we have got one of their management team who will be participating in our conference in the form of Stephen Phillips. He's their Vice President for Special Projects. He's going to be joined by Hallam Hope of Caritel and also Ravi Sankar of KPMG's Jamaica office, their principal for cybersecurity. And the three of them are going to be tackling the topic of opportunities in the blockchain value chain. And what we have seen is everybody thinks of blockchain in relation to cryptocurrencies, but there are other things that the blockchain technology can be used for, especially when it comes to things, again, like data protection and privacy, because of the way in which information is relayed in packets across the blockchain. It's particularly useful for things like the insurance sector. Also, we've seen in terms of digitizing actual national currencies, what's called fiat currencies. So, for example, you've seen in the Eastern Caribbean that BIT is running a pilot program where they have digitized their actual Eastern Caribbean central bank currency, and this is being piloted across that entire OECS sub-region, and that is being done using blockchain technology. So they'll have opportunities beyond cryptocurrency for the use of blockchain technology to expedite and accelerate how business is done.
Okay. Kay? We have our own local companies, but what about companies from overseas wanting to come here and operate in that particular sector?
One of the things, Wendy, as we was involved in when we were in Dubai recently, was speaking to a number of companies, and one of the areas, not necessarily in having a blockchain company here, but one of the areas we see that they're interested in coming to Barbados is international education, in terms of partnering with the University of the West Indies to look at the program in terms of blockchain and cryptocurrency and tokenization, and making sure that we do have solid programs for our youth to be involved in, to understand what is this blockchain system, to understand this new thing that has now taken over the world, because just in short time, maybe in another year or so, it is really going to be all over the world, and this is going to be the new norm, just like how the internet took over many years ago. And therefore they are very interested in partnering to make sure we have that educational background for our youth. Again, diversifying what we do. Derrick mentioned, we got to look at how many lawyers, how many economists, and how many that into new areas, to diversify the areas so we can continue to be competitive on the global stage.
Okay. And we also are going to be looking at the issue of the legal and practical tools to ensure business continuity. Now, generational planning for business. Now, we would think that because these are global companies, it would be a situation where they would constantly be feeding in new resource persons from their particular host country. But as you mentioned to me earlier, Derrick, we now have a situation where more and more homegrown talent are at the helm of these various international corporations.
Yes, Wendy. When I started international business in the arena, like 20 years ago, really, a lot of these companies were headed by what we call as persons who would have come here. We always found maybe the heads came for 3 years, 2 years, and revolved and came and left and came and left. As the homegrown talent has proven itself, more and more of persons like myself and JAMAR are heading these international businesses. And that renounce to our educational system, that renounce to a drive of our people, that renounce to the fact that we were exposed to it and we believed that we could do it. We were able to excel, and many others are leading. So it's great that we've gotten here. I do want to see expats here in Barbados. There was always a very vibrant expat community who came and worked here. Their children went to our school. Their families rented our exclusive homes. They ate at our restaurants, etc. The families came and all the time wanted to come and vacation in Barbados. That it's a bit of a two-edged sword, but we can have both ways work here. You mentioned generational planning. When we talk about generational planning and trust planning, we're talking about a number of things there. Let's look at a family office. Let me talk about family office. That is an office set up like, say, JAMAR's or even mine, to run the business and the investment of a family. And it is estimated that family dynasty lasts for 3 generations. You know, the children come up, they may not understand what it took to earn the money and they blow it. So a family office, a trustee is involved in not just managing the money of that generation, but it also deals with the educating of the next generation. It deals with mentoring the next generation, what colleges and universities that they go to. So that is one thing that we want to discuss of succession under trust, and also you also framed it nicely of succession in a company whereby you are to see who's nine, how do that. So there are lots of areas. I'm getting this thinking about many topics we're doing in this conference. Many arms to that one topic. It's legal and practical to ensure business continuity.
All right, see, I'm glad to hear that. And maybe JAMAR, because we're getting ready for parting words, what for you is one of the major things that you want to see coming out of Global Business Week 2021?
I think one of the major things that I want to see coming out of Global Business Week 2021 is knowledge transfer. I want person to attend the events, the conference, the outreach to the community, everything, that persons gain a deeper understanding of what global business means to Barbados, specifically the level of contribution that it has traditionally provided and will continue to provide. When we were hit with the COVID pandemic, as most of the world, we took a hit in one of our major industries, which is tourism, and the contribution from the global business sector was able to help buttress that blow.
Well, we're happy to hear that. Yes, we're actually at that time. And I want to thank everyone. I am wishing you a successful Global Business Week 2021, all of you who are going to be participating, and I hope your registration goes according to plan. You're planning for about 250. Let's hope maybe that you'll surpass that, especially since it's virtual. This is the People's Business. I wish to thank our guest, Mr. DERRICK CUMMINS, President of BIBA and the CEO of Amicorp Bank and Trust Limited. JAMAR ARTHUR-SELMAN, First Vice President of BIBA and General Manager of Centralis. Ms. CARMEL HAYNES, who's the Executive Director of BIBA, and KAYE BRATHWAITE, the Chief Executive Officer of Invest Barbados. I want to thank you all for joining us on this Sunday night. It's been some interesting topics, and let's hope Barbados is forging the way on that global business platform. Thank you. Here's to a good week coming up from the 24th to 30th. I'm Wendy Burke. This has been The People's Business.